Hello, everybody, and thank you very much for joining us on Sunday, August 29, Global Technopolitics Forum's research team meeting. So again, we are going to have a short meeting with most people are traveling and still enjoying summer holidays. So what about Leo? Let's start with Leo. Leo, would you like to update us on your project?
Yes, hello everyone. So for the 5G project, for the 5G paper, at the end of last week, I finished writing out all the content for my part of the paper. And it looks like last night, Echo just finished writing the last section that she wanted to write. But that said, from my view, looking at the document right now, it's about 45 pages long and reflects all the research we've done over these last few months, but I think still lacks a bit of a specific focus. And Echo reached out to me kind of expressing the same thing and expressing that she's a bit confused on what the final product should look like. So at least from my perspective, at least now that everything has been written out, my plan is for the next few days to spend reading and editing the paper and figuring out what that specific focus is. And I also wanted to schedule a meeting with you, Pari, and Echo so that we can kind of get a better understanding of what her thought process is, because at this point, I'm not quite sure what her sections really are supposed to be arguing. And while I have some sense of the overall themes and conclusions for the sections I've written, I want the final paper to be a reflection of Echo's work as well. So this next week, I would say, is not much writing anymore, just editing and reading the paper.
And maybe if you can give us a sense of what is your conclusion?
Yeah, well, okay, at least for my part of for the paper, my sense is that 5G is more about the impact it will have on standard setting, on internet governance, and the values of the internet and the values that are prioritized within internet governance. And it's more about that rather than the technology itself. So really, that's kind of the angle I'm taking, that it's less about while it is also a battle between leading 5G vendors about the technology, I wanted to really focus on its impact on internet governance, value shaping, and standard setting.
And so Echo feels the same way. So you both are going to focus on standard setting?
On Echo's part, I'm not sure what she wants the final conclusions to be. She just expressed to me that she's kind of unsure what the direction is. I've kind of asked her a few times over the last few months what she thinks the final conclusions will be, but I haven't really gotten much input from her on that end.
Mm-hmm. And what about geopolitics of technology? Beyond the standard setting, the worry about that 5G may be a turning point. Are you writing anything on that part?
Yeah, I would say the geopolitical angle or the worry is that if Huawei establishes its kind of dominance in 5G, along with kind of its connection to the Chinese government, that will lead to a proliferation of more authoritarian values into internet governance. So that's kind of the angle I'm taking as well.
That's great. Greg? Greg, any comments?
Do you feel like you have enough guidance from us? Would it help if we took a quick look and gave you some feedback before you spend a lot of time editing?
Yes, actually, that would be perfect. Yeah.
So where is the? How do you know where the latest draft is? Right, it's
yes, the same draft. It's just updated, but I will send you a link, Greg.
Okay, great. I'll try and take a look at
that draft in earlier stage, but it's now more comprehensive, and I will send you a link at it. I looked at it. I gave some comments to Leo, which he has followed, but it will be good for you to see it as well. Paul, any comments?
No comment specifically, but I think the idea of having a focus is critical, and I mean, I think the standards is a good place to look at, especially since the U.S. and China are both involved in that quite extensively, and there's some sense that, or my sense is that the Chinese have become a lot more active and a lot more influential in standards and standard bodies, at least in the telecommunications industry over the last 5 years. And they've really, made their mark. So I think that definitely bears a lot of looking into and a lot of attention. I would also say, thinking about the next steps, where their position in this current round of the technology positions them, or when I say them, I mean the US and China, for the next step, because this isn't the end of the line, right? There are always new iterations of the technology. So how well does this position either of the countries and their representatives for the next iteration, if it does?
Great.
Thank you. Yeah.
Puran, any comments?
One of the things, Pari, which I feel when we talk about 5G and what will really follow thereafter, would be the governance mechanism around it, which has unfortunately been missing, and not much effort is being directed on that count. And unless we have some kind of a governance structure, the framework, which could be led by countries on the one hand, and then it could also be looked at by WTO, which has been a little bit in limbo, which is what is also trying to make development and evolution of 5G and consequential geopolitics around it. Once governance structures and frameworks are put in place at a body like WTO, contributed to by different nation states, I think that would really begin to set the system in place. And then we could probably see a more systematic evolution of technological tools, including 5G and everything else which will follow on the path going forward. So that would be the one thing which I would probably say would be worthwhile to also consider alongside the whole draft which is being written around 5G and China and US. But I think this is what is now being debated. But unless we have the governance mechanism or the system, the frameworks, there will always be some kind of problem, and we will find it pretty hard to settle it. So that's a brief thing probably from my side.
Thank you. Thank you. Firuze, any comments? Firuze?
No comments, but I can talk about what I'm doing.
Yes, which is a good transition. So please.
Yeah, because it does tie into what I'm doing as well. Huawei and China and trends in authoritarianism, especially when we're talking about Africa. And so I've continued to look at recent elections. Zambia just had one. And Zambia is actually one of the more open, more democratic states, but also in the recent years, it has seen some backsliding into authoritarianism and laws that he changed in order to again stand for election. And to everybody's, it had a surprise good ending at this in this situation, because the opposition leader actually by landslide won. Still, but notwithstanding how repressive the media became and the state became, Amnesty actually criticized the state. They passed a bunch of laws. Police was unleashed on people. Prison terms versus civil society for journalists. So it is interesting to see how, notwithstanding the penetration of open internet, supposedly open, throughout Africa, how easy it is for the state to come in and co-opt journalists and media, and to force it to align with its own political objectives, either by shutting it down or by overt repressive forces. So I've actually started writing now the report because I think I have enough information and enough material to so I'm
Great.
doing that now. My question is, if we are going to because we started looking at digitalization in Africa and how it is impacting elections in specific. And I don't know whether the original intent was to raise like a hopeful flag, but it's really like a mixed bag, and the forces, the repressive forces are really immense, and especially in Africa. We've also seen it in the West, especially when there's an economic downturn and COVID has made things worse. We've seen the rise of populist leaders, even where there are like mature democracies in our own country. So if we are going to write a paper with the objective of asking for a grant for doing subsequent work or research, then I'm wondering what your feeling and what your opinion is on going forward. How do you see leveraging this paper in order to move towards like monetizing it and getting a grant and doing subsequent research?
Firuze, from what I understand, you have come to conclusion that technology doesn't have much impact, correct?
I'm not saying that it doesn't have impact. It's not that hopeful opening that we want. I remember when Tahrir Square was erupting and everybody was like celebrating the fact that, okay, look at what social media is doing, look at what internet is doing in a repressive regime like post-Mubarak Egypt. Everybody is out on the streets and people power, you know. Yes, it does, but still exponentially, the state is also gaining more power. No matter what the people have access to, the state can always come down and shut down the internet. It can also unleash its security forces upon the people. It can clamp down on journalism. And when you have places like Africa, where you have the considerations of war on terror, where the Western powers are funding really authoritarian voices, and you have mines and mineral resources and strategic resources that trump many things, then it weighs it very heavily against what we were hoping that internet would do. Of course, it is doing, you know, good things also in the economy. There's M-Pesa, as we were talking about before. There are like people, there's like access to markets, and there's like, that's the economic side.
Yeah, identifying those forces actually is a valuable work.
Yes.
Where it is positive, where it is negative, yes. Where is it working, and also remind me to send you a paper that we received from one of the people who joined us briefly from Salahuddin. I think he joined and then he got frightened because he was involved in some of the work, the lawyer, I don't remember if you joined us on that meeting or not. It was me, Maura. Anyway, I will send you, and the way they used internet in order to change the government. So there are areas that it would work, there are areas it wouldn't, and identifying those areas where it works against and where it works for, I think it's already a valuable work, and also geographically identifying in which countries it's more hopeful and which countries it's not. Greg, comment?
No, I think that's exactly right. I mean, there never wasn't any particular bias toward a conclusion, right? That we all have the sense that this would be 20 years ago, that this was going to be a boon for democracy and decentralization. Hasn't quite turned out that way. And so putting it in a bigger context, I think is exactly right. And then if you have at the end some interesting relative success stories,
of course, you do have to have like some sort of a hopeful conclusion in some way. Yeah.
I mean, if there are some of those, and I hope there are, that would be great.
Okay. And I'm actually going to Europe next Saturday, so I'll be away, but I'm going to continue. I will not be tuning in, but I will be working on taking my stuff with me, and I'll be working on this because I find the project very interesting. Anyway.
Great.
How long you're going to be away, Firuze?
Several weeks. But I'll be in contact with you anyway, Patty Jim. So on email and whatever. Maybe I'll see you before I go. I don't know what you're doing. This is we'll talk later.
Okay. All right. Any comments from anybody? So, okay. Any other updates from anybody? No. So we are still working on China project that is not, we haven't have a conclusion. So once we write it, I'm going to share it with everybody. Beyond that, I think I'm going to wish everybody a wonderful week ahead and see you soon. Take care.
Take care. Good week, everybody.
Take care. Yep.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.